go and start for the day. First things first, do your do now. So if you have not clicked on your do now for the day, you're going to click on it, put your name, your period. Hopefully you can remember this building. We talked about it in class with one of our master architects last week. If you don't remember it, if you look really closely, I think it says the name right there. So I don't know if you need a magnifying glass when you can zoom in and see it. But you're going to put what is this building? If you're not sure, look at last week's presentation on the master architects, and then see if you can figure out who made this building. The architect has very similar styles in many of his buildings, so you should be able to pick out who did this one out of the 3 master architects that we looked at last week. So please complete your do now. If you have not already, that's your daily check-in for attendance. So if you have not done that, go ahead and do that. And I'm going to come back over here. And let's talk about our assignment for this week. And we'll go into present mode. We'll see how this works. So it's bigger so you can see it all. All right. So last week we talked a little bit about some introduction to contemporary architecture and some master architects. We'll review those in just a moment. But just as an overview, before we even start this, I just want to hop back to what is our big unit, right? So I want you to understand that our big unit is to create a shoe company. We're creating a product and we're doing a design pitch. These are the components that we've done and that we will be continuing to do. So far we've come up with our general inspiration for our company. We came up with a company name. Many students already made their logo. They have no problems with doing this on logo.com. If you haven't done this step, go and do that step. We did a little introduction to some architecture and contemporary design, and now we're working on store design. So we're in the 3rd component of these 4 steps that are part of the unit for product design. At the very end, after we finish our shoe design, starting next week, we'll be working on our shoe design. After we finish everything, we'll put all of these things together in one final pitch presentation. Okay, so remember, all of these things are working together in one big unit. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that. And let's come over to, there it is. Oh, I think I opened it somewhere else. There we go. Too many tabs open. Okay, all right. Let's talk about our store design. So what are your learning targets? So what are you actually doing? So you need to understand what the term concept means in an architectural structure. You need to be able to apply contemporary architectural styles in an original store design. So look at the different styles that are happening in contemporary architecture. And you're going to create your own architectural design that you're putting together on a concept plan that represents your brand identity. So you're linking the building, the architectural design, and the brand that you already have going for your company. All right. Again, we're pulling inspiration from our master architects. That's Frank Gehry. That's that top building right there. He has many buildings. We'll look at, we'll see if we can watch the videos that are part of this presentation. They were kind of choppy when we tried to watch them earlier, but we'll give it a shot. There's some videos in here. If we can't watch them during the presentation, they're still kind of choppy and weird. Watch them at your own pace. But we have a video with Frank Gehry in it, just kind of introducing some things about his architecture. We also looked at Frank Lloyd Wright. We looked at the Guggenheim, and this is an example or a picture of his work, Falling Water. Remember, there's a waterfall running underneath this building. It's really famous and well known. And the last master architect that we touched on was I.M. Pei. Now, there's lots of other architects out there that are also doing amazing things. These are just some of the heavy hitters, just to kind of give you like a little intro into contemporary architecture. And remember, I.M. Pei is known for his glass and use of light, right? It really shows in his buildings mixing that contemporary edge with things from the past. All right, so let's talk about what is a concept. So in design, and specifically when you're looking at architectural driven philosophies, we want to have the idea that something is like a source of inspiration, right? A concept is an idea and it pushes the concept or thought process or brand identity. It pulls it all together. It drives that design forward, all right? So if you look at the top of this concept board that's here, you can see something as simple as pleating or folding and layering can be found in fashion, but it can also be found in architecture, right? You can take simple things like color blocking. You can take inspiration from environmental diagrams, right? Anything that kind of relates to, it can come from anywhere. Your inspiration source can come from literally anywhere. I've heard somebody say that their inspiration for their building was the wind. It could be your expression of your own imagination, your own creativity. Nothing is stopping you or holding you back. All right, so I just want you to see that inspiration can come from everywhere, but it needs to be consistently kind of brought through all of the design aspects for your company, for your brand, for your building. It needs to be cohesive. It needs to all kind of work together. But again, inspiration can come from anywhere. Here are some more concept board examples. We can see here we have all this Infinity office park, and they use the Infinity logo, right? There's our logo. The word, like the term infinity, right? This is a symbol that represents it. And they're making a building that shows that same kind of curvilinear structure that's happening. Here we have a concept idea that's related to water. It's for a yacht club. So obviously boating, it makes sense, right? That the boats are on the water. So their club, they want to incorporate something that relates to water. So they look at the water drop. How could that be shown in different ways in a building, right? We are challenging what a building can look like. We're just really using our imagination, going crazy. There's nothing holding us back, okay? Even in this bottom one down here, it's just a triangle. The use of triangle is all they're using to come up with their inspiration. Now, if their logo or design for their company includes triangles, win, that's perfect, right? So it could be something very, very basic. It could be something really, out of the box and different. You can really challenge these things, but I want you to see how a concept board is really kind of just pushing these ideas, your imagination, and kind of seeing what this may look like. It's these people who are creative and kind of challenge what the status quo is or what the norm is that are really wanted in the market today, because there's a lot of people who are just doing the same old, and you want to get people in. You want to think about new and innovative ways to incorporate function and design, right? So use your imagination, kind of challenge beyond the basic day-to-day stuff. When we're looking at contemporary architecture, there's some things that you see a lot of. One are simplified geometric forms, like these over here. So we can see there's like these triangle shapes kind of overlapping and folding. We've got some basic geometric forms. Some like curvilinear structures happen when we look at the objects from nature and the influence from natural shapes down here. So you can have natural forms that are influenced, or sometimes you see a mix to show contrast between the two. So maybe we have something that's more geometric, more 90-degree angles, pyramids, things like that, mixed with something that's more natural. Okay, so you may see a mix of them as well. Now, on this slide, there are two videos. I will try to see if I can play one of them. We'll see how it works. The last class, it didn't really work so well. But I want to kind of give you the general overview of information on this slide. So concept guide. So when you're coming up with a concept board or concept plan, there's some things that influence how you're kind of moving that plan forward. These are things like within the field that you would be represented, like things would be given to you, and you'd have to be like, okay, I'm taking all this information and turning it into my idea, right? The first thing is a site analysis. A site analysis basically says, where is your building going to go? If your building's going to be on the side of a mountain and there's a stream next to it, you need to know that, because your building needs to be able to structurally support itself next to a body of water, and it has to deal with the angles of a mountainside, right? That makes a big difference. If you're building in a swampy, marshy area with lots of water, you need to know that your building has to be raised up on platforms, right? If there's a lot of rainfall there. That site or the environmental factors is one component that would influence your concept design, okay? The second thing is the design brief. So if I'm a client and I'm saying, listen, I want to make this building, I want it to function as the top 5 floors of it. I want it to be office space. The bottom floor, I need to have, a fitness area, and I also need to have a little cafe. So your design brief, like that you get from the client, says, these are the things I need in my building. How can you make this all come together? okay? The third thing that you're looking for when you're trying to plan your concept guide is a narrative. What is the story that you're trying to tell with your building? So in our case, we're doing a shoe company, right? We're thinking about the function of our shoes and what's special about our shoes. That's the story that we're telling. If I'm making, a hospital, the narrative I'm going to tell is very different than if I'm making a skyscraper for, a stockbroker. You know what I mean? Like it's very, very different experience as far as what the story is behind your building. The fourth thing that you're going to think about is the function. We know what our function is going to be, but if I was going into the field and I was learning how to do this and given all of this information, I have to think about how my building functions successfully in the modern world. All right. So on this first video that's up here, this is a student who's actually in architecture, and she explains all of these different components that she goes through when she's trying to create her building designs. And what's nice about this is at the end of her video, she talks about somebody who was creating a Holocaust museum and what the meaning is behind the design choices that they made. So that's an interesting tie to the narrative, right? What is the story behind those choices? The more impact and thought you put behind those choices, the more influence your building will have and the more connection people will have with their everyday experiences with that building, okay? So I'm not gonna try to play this one, it's a little bit longer. I want you to try to watch it on your own. I'm gonna see if I can play the Frank Gehry one, because it's just a quick little video, kind of him describing things. Let's see if I can open this up, maybe. Give it a second to load. All right, let's see if I can share this with the tab. Give me just 1 second. Hold on. Don't worry, I'll go back. All right, let's see if this works.
If you know what you're going to do in advance, then you won't do it. Your creativity starts with whether you're curious or not. Roll 'em. Go. Action. When you build a building, any building, start with the simple block model to see where that goes. Most of our cities are built with just faceless glass, only for economies and not for humanities. As an artist, I got constraints. Gravity is one of them. But within all those constraints, I have 15% of freedom to make my art. I'm always trying to express movement. I was fascinated with the fold, so basic to our first feelings of love and warmth. These ideas are scary as hell to tell to the client. They can reject you, and they will, but you gotta find your own voice. Create the logic for it as you go. Stretch it into another place. I'm just telling you how I did it and why I did it. Whatever you do, promise me that every project you make or design, you'll take the risk of doing something for humanity. I'm Frank Gehry, and this is my masterclass.
Okay, so this is just a presentation, like a little intro to an actual class that he offers online. But I think what's interesting about it, let me come over here to present, and we'll come back to our project. There we go. We'll present this so you can see it. And let this person in real quick. Okay, one of the things that I thought was really interesting to hear Frank Gehry talk is that he talks about building structure for the human use, right? He talks about how he tries to express movement in his buildings. He talks about how he's trying to kind of fold things in, and the idea of warmth and comfort of like being a baby wrapped in a blanket, right? That idea of being kind of cocooned or held in is what he's trying to show with his buildings. Understanding some of that thought behind it makes you look at his buildings a little bit differently, which is why I included that, just a quick little snippet of him talking about his artwork. And again, I want you to watch this video up here, but I'm not going to take all this time to watch the videos. I'm kind of going to skip through, see how far we can get here. All right, the next slide. This is a video that shows at a more advanced level somebody doing things similar to what we've been doing in Photopea. They're taking in different geometric shapes, they are bringing in different colors, they're overlaying patterns, things that we did exactly the same way in our floor plan for our restaurant unit. So I just want you to see like how this looks like at a more advanced level. There are programs out there that you can digitally create buildings 3D. The reason I'm not taking it to that level with this project is there's not enough time to teach you all of the individual steps to learn this software, and it would be its own class in itself. And for us, we're just looking at the graphic design, like the visuals for the actual design of something. So when it comes to the 3D actual recreation and development of creating a 3D building online, that would take just so much time and energy, and it's kind of beyond the scope of this class description. So if you're interested in learning how to use things like Blender or SketchUp, those are things where you can build things 3D. I can help you with that, but just to kind of see where things go at a more advanced level and to understand what happens in the industry and what students in the architectural school are actually doing, I wanted to present that to you so you could look at it. The other thing I included was there's a video here of somebody who's talking about how he kind of expresses different ideas when he's talking about developing buildings. And at the end, he talks about how he takes something like a recycling plant and turns it into something that's environmentally friendly for anybody who's around there. So instead of seeing a big plant that, poofs like, all kinds of smoke into the air, they regulated the air, the steam coming out, and made it look like clouds around it. And they put the building kind of on a mountainside and turned it into like a ski resort. So they took something that potentially, could be an eyesore or something that's not nice to look at and turned it into a destination. So there's nothing challenging you as far as limits, as far as site. You be as creative as you want to be. You can make your store on the moon if you want, or Mars. There's nothing challenging you as far as brief description. You are able to go with your own inspiration and imagination. So you're not limited at all. Let your imagination and creativity kind of help drive these ideas. Keep in mind that the concepts, these people who are the original thinkers, the ones who are challenging and looking outside the box, are the ones who are, really defining our future. So that's what I want you to really challenge and look inside yourself. The one thing that you do have to worry about when we're looking at your concept plan is your narrative. So how are you telling a story with your building? How does everything relate into a story? So let's look at this visual right here. Let me make this bigger so you can see it. This is a pediatric unit of a hospital, right? So pediatric means it's for the kids. So this is a section of the hospital for kids. So if you've ever been in a hospital, you notice when you get to the kids section, the things change. There's new paint colors, new like engaging things inside that area for kids. The reason is they're choosing here to show a lot of exterior spaces, like outdoor spaces, inside, because the kids who are in the hospital can't go outside, right? So they're bringing the outside in, and they're making it in a kid-friendly way. So that's something to kind of think about. Their storyline makes sense with their design for their building. If I was making a shoe company that was all about, recycled materials in my shoes, or if I had like a social agenda, like my store design and my company building could look very different if I'm trying to promote Black Lives Matter, right? That would look very different than somebody who's got a shoe out of recycled materials. So the building, the story that's behind your shoe company. It should all kind of tie together, right? So bring it all together in your brand identity and help tell that story. All right, so let's look at your actual assignment for the week. So here's a visual, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do it. So I just want you to look at the different components that we see here. So first thing, logo down here. Second thing, just a general sketch of a building. Third thing, some color inspiration. Now we've done color schemes before, so you could pull up a color scheme or just a general inspiration. We've got some inspirational photos to kind of tie with our building design. And then we have 2 questions that are answered. These are the requirements for your assignment this week, okay? The next slide here actually just writes it all out, exactly what you need to do. So your company logo, you're creating a plan in Photopea. The size of the project is 17 inches by 11 inches. You need to have your company logo, a sketch of a building that you can bring in and kind of manipulate, kind of throw a little color on to make it fit your design. Some sort of reference of a color scheme, some inspirational images, and then answers to the 2 questions. So what does this look like? How do we start it? All right. So let's go to Photopea, and I have made one for the last class. I'll make a new one right now. So we'll go to new, and I'll just say this is concept plan example. All right, so make sure that I change it to inches. So IN, I'm making it 17 wide, 11 tall. So inches, not pixels, okay? And I'm gonna hit create. All right, let's look at the specific requirements, and I'm going to drag this over here so it's closer, so I can click on it closer. Drag you guys over there too. There we go. All right, so let's look. First thing I need is my company logo. Okay, so I've made my thing in Photopea. I'm ready to get going. Here's my logo that I made. Remember, if you made your logo, this is what it looks like. Or if you just took a screenshot, you can use that screenshot. Or if you just took like a picture or saved it. This is all I have because this is where I made it, and I didn't save it to my computer because I didn't want to buy it, right? So I can open this back up, and this is my logo that I need to bring into my project for this week. So I'm just going to take a screenshot. The way to do it on my computer, and every computer is a little bit different, is to hold down the Windows key, which is like 2 buttons over from the space bar to the left, and the print screen key, which is on the top right of my keyboard. Earlier today in class, I had a student who was working on her, I don't think it's a Chromebook now, it's like a Dell, I think. Anyway, she was working on her school computer. And on the bottom left, she had a key that is in blue. It said FN. So it was like function in blue. And then up on the top right, she had a print screen key. So she hit both of those. That worked the same way. So I'm going to take a screenshot of my computer screen, and you see a little flash there. I'm going to come over to Photopea, and I'm going to do edit and paste, and it's going to bring in my picture. When it brings in my picture, it's going to show the whole thing. So I'm going to reduce it in size so I can see everything. But it's showing my whole computer screen. I don't need my whole computer screen. I only need my logo, right? So how do I get my logo and not the rest of it? The easiest way to do this, I'm going to use my rectangle select. And I'm just going to choose this middle section because that's what I want to keep right there. But I don't want any of the rest of this. So I just want to delete all of that. So I'm going to tell the computer that I'm going to select the inverse. And the inverse is the outside stuff. So now it's going to select everything but that middle section. So I'm going to select inverse and then hit delete. And it'll delete everything else but the section I want. Okay, so let me go through that one more time so you can see it. So I'm going to come all the way back to looking at my logo, come back to my logo, right? I want to get the biggest one up here, and I'm going to do a screenshot by holding down the Windows or function key and the print screen button. So I'm going to hit those 2. It will flash. Now yours may not flash, but it would probably still copy because the student who did it in class, it didn't flash like mine does. I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to do edit and paste. And then it shows up, but it shows up really big. So I've got to go up to edit, transform and scale and resize it so I can see the whole screen, because I want to delete everything at once that I don't want. And then I'm going to use my rectangle select, and I'm going to go just around the part that I want to keep. That's my logo in the middle here. I'm going to go up to select and inverse, and it'll choose the stuff around it. And then I'm going to hit delete or backspace. Then it'll take it all away. Now I have just my logo, which is perfect. And I'm going to click on the move tool and move it wherever I want it. So I can put it anywhere I want. So I can put it right here in the middle, off to the side. It's really up to you. The layout and design is part of this assignment. All right, let's look at what's next. Next thing I need is to Google Contemporary Architecture Sketch and find an image that works for my general design of my building. Doesn't have to be exact, just an idea for reference. So let me go over here. I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to type in contemporary, and you can see I've already typed it earlier, contemporary architectural sketch. Click. Go to my images. Now let me think about my logo. My logo has a wave on it. If your logo is like, I had somebody earlier, she was doing high fashion, like stilettos, like really high heels. So her logo had a high heel on it. So she was looking for a building that kind of showed that similar shaping, or she changed it up to be something that kind of looked like a dress, the way she chose it, because it was like high fashion. So it's really up to you. I mean, you can kind of make these, connect to these dots to tell a story that you want to tell. But I'm going to look for one that has kind of like a curve to it, similar to what is in my logo with the wave. So I'm just going to scroll through. This is the one I used in the original. And I'm going to keep looking. This one's kind of crazy. It's interesting. And that one's kind of cool. Could keep looking. Looking for anything that kind of works with my design of my logo that has the curves. Well, that's interesting. I could definitely use something like that with a different design, though. I think I'm going to go back up here and choose something, one of these ones that was in the beginning. I'll take that one. All right, so I'm going to copy this image, bring it over to Photopea, edit, paste. It comes in. It's a little bit bigger than I want, so I'll go and just make it a little bit smaller. Edit, transform and scale, and resize it just a little bit. I'm going to add some color to it. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Now, one of the things that I was working with other students is they started to they were adding color, but they added it like the opacity was 100. So look what happens when you draw with whatever color you want with your brush tool, and the opacity is 100. You can't see the sketch anymore, right? So you got to drop down the opacity so that you can color it a little bit, but it doesn't have to, you can still see the sketch. So we did it like opacity around 20, and that seemed to be pretty good. So I can then come in here and I can change the size of my brush if I want to, and I'm zoomed in a little bit, but I just want to show generally where I want the colors in my building. So I'm gonna have some colors here. And since my design is a wave, maybe I'll have some different shades of blue. So let me look and see. I'll choose some different things. Maybe this one is a different shade of blue. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because this is just a sketch, kind of showing different ideas. So I'm bringing in all different colors for this. Maybe I want this whole middle section to be the same color. Right, so I'm just kind of coloring this in loosely. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just a general idea of what colors I want where. General idea. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. You can take your time, you can make it a lot nicer, but just a general idea happening, okay? Let me pull back so you can see it. Oops, sorry about that. I want to do the opposite of that. There we go. And you can see it has a little bit of color to it, just kind of show what I'm thinking for my building in general. I think I want to make this just a little bit smaller. It's pretty big, so I'm going to just shrink it down a little bit. And I think I'm going to move my logo over. Bring my building design up here. All right, so there's my general building design. Here's my logo for my company. Let's go and see what's next. I've got my logo, sketch, color scheme. I'm gonna go to Google, and my inspiration is a wave for my shoe company, so I'm gonna type in wave color scheme. See what comes up. Perfect, this is exactly what I was looking for. So I'm just gonna come over here, choose something that has kind of a purpley color to it that I like. A bluish purple. I'll take this dark one here. Copy that image, bring it over to my assignment and paste it, resize it because it's a little bit big. Here's my general color scheme for reference. And I'm looking at this one, and it looks kind of different than the colors that I have here. So I think I'm going to find one that's got a little bit more green to it. Because you can see on my building, it clearly does not look like that. So let's try this one, see how that looks. That's a little bit better, right? You can see some of these colors that are in here. You can see this color in the middle. I want to make sure it makes sense with the colors that I put on my building. All right, let's go to the next thing. 2 inspirational images. Now, my thing that I'm looking up is a wave. That's my inspiration. So I'm just going to type in wave. Find some pictures of waves that kind of work. This is perfect. Copy that image, bring it over, edit and paste. Obviously resize that because it's super huge. So that's my inspirational image. And you know what I'm going to do? Because my wave here is going the opposite direction, I'm going to flip my picture so it goes that direction too. So you can really see it. So I'm going to go down here to flip. See how that now it shows it. You kind of see that feeling of the curve and the curve there. Let me find another wave picture for inspiration. And again, your inspirational thing could come from anywhere. So I had somebody, like she was doing the high fashion stuff with the stilettos, and she chose to put on pictures from like models walking on a runway. It works because it makes sense. Her stuff is high fashion, and that's where you'd see it. All right, so there are my 2 inspirational images. So I just want to like kind of play around with layout, make sure I like the way everything looks. All right, what's next? The last thing I need to do is answer these 2 questions. Now, in our final presentation, our pitch presentation, if people see our presentation, they need to know what questions we're answering. So make sure you bring your questions over. All right, so I just copied that. I'm coming over to my text tool, and I'm just going to paste it. The first question fills in no problem. The second one kind of runs off a little bit, so I'm going to just hit a return so I can see the whole thing. So I'm including my questions, and then I'm going to put my answers to the question, because if I was just showing this slide to somebody or this concept plan to somebody, they need to understand what question I'm answering. So make sure you have the questions actually there. So my first question is, how does my store concept relate to my brand identity? So my store concept is inspired by a wave that I use in my logo design for my brand. Right? Just make the connection. What is a unique feature about the design of your store that appeals or attracts to your target market? So I'm just going to come in here. My shoe company makes footwear for people who like to surf. So I included lots of glass on my building. I'm just going to hit a return there so I can still see it. To reflect nature, the nature around it. Great. So I'm relating to environment, to nature. Right? I could also say, you know, my company is on the beach. Maybe my shoe company is like, you know, in California or where people are known to surf a lot. So it has to kind of connect or make sense with everything else. Now, when you are done typing, you are welcome to come back in and play around with the text. Make sure it like makes sense and looks nice, right? So you can just adjust things how you want. Choose an interesting design or typeface or font. Just gonna like look and see what's here. Take this one. I can make my size bigger or smaller. I could even include more pictures. If I wanted to have more pictures of other things happening in here, or I want to change the color of my text, I could do all of that. But what you need to do for the requirements are these things listed right here, these 5 things. All right. Remember at the end, when you go to turn it in, you always have to do a 2-step save. So file, save as a PSD. That version is for you. It has all the layers in it. Then export as a JPEG, JPG. When you do that, this box opens up, you hit the save button, it saves it to your computer, and that JPG version of the file is what you turn in. Okay? So you're trying to go through and create all of these components. So these 5 different things need to be in your final assignment for the week, which is your concept plan for your shoe company building or store. All right, let me come back over here. What questions do you guys have? Who has questions? Do you guys understand what you need to do? Going into Photopea, making a document that's 17 by 11 and incorporating those 5 things. Okay, and again, make sure you have your question in there. Somebody asked me earlier, do I have to do it in Photopea? I want to do it in another program. As long as you have all the components and it looks nice in the end, it's fine if you want to use something else. But you want to have the same proportions, a little bit longer than it is tall, and include all of the components that you need. Okay? If you have not done your logo assignment, do that first because you need your logo for this one. So everything kind of builds on one another. All right, if you guys feel good and there's no questions at all, no issues, go ahead and get to work. You can stay on the call, you're welcome to, but you don't have to. If you have questions, you can hop back on and ask me, okay? All right, guys, have a good day. I'll see you later.
You too, bye.
Bye.